you do know that most of life is about making choices?
Sure.
How many of us made choices multiple times today already? So turn to a neighbor and say, I made more choices than you.
I made more choices than you.
Well, good. Anyway.
Easier.
All right, you probably did.
You're trying to start a fight, aren't you?
Well, I'm coming to tell you that choices bring us power. And most of us, quite frankly, don't live very powerful lives. How many of you think you could live a more powerful life? All right, sign him up. Most of the time, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but most of the time we allow other people to make most of our choices for us. It is easier, but they don't usually care what you like.
Get on my wife again.
Yeah, well, I have a question for you, and this is not a hand-raising question. This is a yell at the preacher time question.
All right.
All right?
Yeah.
So, somebody give me the definition of power.
110 volts.
110 volts.
220.
220. Give me 340. Oh, no. 440 would be the next one, but I'm not an electrician, so what is power? The freedom to choose? Yes, sir.
So why?
It's a wife. Some of you probably do let them have the power to choose. What else is power? God? Yeah, that's in my...
Ultimate.
Yeah.
Knowledge.
Knowledge. Wisdom. Mostly power derives from our ability to choose. Now, in my life, I'm going to tell you I've made lots of choices, and one of them started March 19th of last year. That's when I looked like that. On March 12th, 2000, whatever last year was, 12,
Stop wearing white shirts.
I did stop wearing white shirts.
Too many church suppers there.
Too many church suppers, too many other things. I weighed 294 pounds. My blood pressure that day was 150/87. I have sleep apnea. I'd had it for 7 years, used a machine. And if you have had sleep apnea and you use a machine, you'll get this. My pressure was 17 pounds, which is way off the deep end. My blood sugar was just a tad high, 110. I was mostly tired all the time. My knees hurt. And I'm going to tell you something. Most of my relationships were hurting because I had no energy to be engaged, involved. Well, I'm going to tell you that day I did make a choice. Any of you ever feel like that? Ever? Any of you feel tired? Some of you probably have high blood pressure and you treat it with medication, probably. I can guarantee you that my doctor, if I had let him check my blood pressure, yes, you can.
How are you going to gain all that weight by March 12, 2013? That's not what you do.
Well, you know, my computer works very quickly, and when Don asked me to put together something, I didn't proofread.
Okay, this one's just Don's fault.
This is Don's fault.
Not me, I'm the wrong guy.
Wrong guy.
Yeah, that one back there.
Gotcha.
So anyway, I decided I had to do something, but what do? You know, if I went to the doctor looking like that, he would prescribe some medication for my blood pressure, and then he would tell me the magic words: lose weight. And the last doctor that I asked that told me that, I said, what would you like me to do, and when will you meet me to do it? Because he weighed more than I did. What was his answer? He looked at me like I was crazy and should know the answer to it. That's right. Do as I say, not as I do.
Change doctor.
Now, what it comes down to is on that day I made a choice. I made a choice to live my life differently, to change my life, to do things differently, and there was great power in that. For one thing, The power of choice tells you that the future does not have to remain as the past. How many of you realize that the future and past are related, but they aren't dependent on each other? That's what I decided. That's right. Some of you. The future is dependent on whatever you choose to make of it. And everybody in this room has the ability to change their future. And I talk about my weight loss story because it's a great illustration of the power of choice. So, how many of you have a comfort zone?
Oh, yeah.
It's very narrow, isn't it? It's right here. It's wherever we are. And as soon as you saw my picture, you're going, oh, he's going to talk about my weight. The real truth of the matter is, I don't care what you weigh. Well, that's not exactly true, but mostly your choice to weigh whatever you choose to weigh is your choice. It's true. All of our choices are really for ourselves. But I had to decide that day whether I was going to be a victim or a victor. How many of you know somebody who's always the victim? Here's how that plays out. Somebody did something to me.
Poor pitiful pearl.
Poor pitiful pearl. Life is so hard. The world keeps falling down on top of me. How many of you like to be around people like that?
Great for your self-esteem.
They're great for your self-esteem. Oh.
You have one.
No, don't want to. The bottom line is, when we talk about victim or victor, we're talking about choice. And all of the victims you know have made a choice. They've chosen to look like that. Because, you know what? I looked like that for about 5 years. I weighed between 280 and 294 for 5 years. It was just until that one day I stepped on a scale and said a bad word. And you know, preachers aren't supposed to say bad words. My wife actually heard me say it and she said, "What?" No, it wasn't Maurice, it was my wife Sheila.
What just happened?
When I started making choices, things started to happen because I became victorious, and here's what that started to look like. Now, most of the time, this is what I look like today. This morning I weighed 197 pounds. On my way here, I stopped and had my blood pressure taken. It was 123, which is the highest it's been in 2 weeks. It must be because I had to speak to the Lions Club. 123 over 67.
That'll do it.
I haven't used my sleep apnea machine in over 6 months. My blood sugar 2 weeks ago was 87. I'm not tired. And my relationships are improving. Now, the reason my relationships are improving is because I've made this choice, and people, I hate to say this, but people like being around this guy better than the other guy. It's true.
He's smiling.
Yeah, well, he's smiling. I thought I was smiling in the last picture until I looked at it. So there are some payoffs. I don't have to go on blood pressure meds. I don't have to do a lot of things. I don't have to pack my sleep apnea machine around with me whenever I travel, and I travel quite a bit. And my family, let's see here. This is my family. I'm the fat guy on the right. And then it goes my son-in-law, and then my oldest daughter, and then my wife Sheila, and then my youngest daughter, Jaylee. Now, we're at my daughter's wedding, and that's about a year and a half ago. And we look pretty happy. But when I made the choice to make my life different, I didn't realize the impact that it was going to have on my family. This is my family. Oh, there's my wife now.
Whoops.
Sheila and me, 165 pounds lighter. There's the whole family after 9 months on the program. I've been on it at this point 9 months. They've all been on it about 6 because they weren't nearly as fat as I was. It's just the way it goes. Between the four of us, we've lost at that point 295 pounds. What that means is that they lost all of me. Rachel and I, obviously we were at her wedding. Between the two of us in this picture, we're 140 pounds lighter. This is my 18-year-old daughter, 234 pounds on the far left. She took this really cool dress, this picture. In the middle, she was 199. And then not too long ago, I was out in Oregon and we took this picture. She's gone from 234 pounds to 184 pounds. She's 50 pounds lighter. It shaped friends. This is my wife's best friend, Ann. She's lost 50 pounds. This is my best friend, Ken. He's lost 55 pounds.
And all this from praying.
All this from praying.
You gonna sell us penny cream?
No.
All right.
Fact is, I'm not really going to try to sell you anything. I could sell you Jesus, but, you know. Yeah. The bottom line is, all of this happened, you can go there now. All of this happened because I made one decision, and that was to choose not to be a victim, to choose to do things differently, to choose to take steps to change my life. What I've learned in the process, and one of the things that came out of this, is the fact that I came to live in Duncanville, Texas. Because when I started this program, I had decided to do things differently. I decided to do things differently because I wanted different results than what I was getting in life. Because you all understand that the description and definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting to get different results. Here's what I found out. As well as my elbow worked going from the table to my mouth, to think that it wasn't going to change was insanity. And as I changed, other things began to change. I'm spending more time with my daughter in Oregon. That's why I disappear for a week or two at a time. Just so you know, I'm going to Oregon to see my kid.
Good job.
I do that because she asked me one day, this is my senior year in high school, can you spend more time with me? And that's what brought me to Duncanville, Texas from Chicago, Illinois. She lives, by the way, in Hillsboro, Oregon. Are any of you confused about that yet? A better plane trip. Here's what happened. I filled out my relocation forms in the church and said, send these to all the churches in Oregon and Washington. My very first phone call came from a guy that some of you in this room know, wanting to know if I would come or be interested in coming to Duncanville, Texas.
And you didn't say hell no?
Actually, I did. I didn't say it quite that way. I said, well, I'm really trying to go to Oregon. And he said, well, we have your papers. And I'm going, why do you have my papers?
We're all the way to bureaucracy.
I depended on a bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy worked. So I told them no. I was trying to go to Oregon. I had 2 churches in Oregon interested in me. I was their second choice for both of them. That's bad news to be the second choice in Oregon.
They laid down short.
That's right. So as soon as I got that message, I got a phone call from the same guy saying, have you reconsidered? Would you like to come to Texas? I said,
Hell no!
I did. Because I was still trying to go to Oregon. And this went on for 4 months.
Did he try to sell you electricity?
He did. Now, here's the fun thing about it. I kept getting these phone calls. Once a month, I got a phone call saying, well, you're still our first choice.
Yeah.
And I'm going, can you move to Oregon? Then I was offered a job in Oregon.
Uh-oh.
And I thought, yay, wonderful. And then I started doing math. I couldn't afford to live there because they wanted to pay me $3.17 a week. And that was bad. So, finally, another member of the committee called me. And he says, "Why don't you want to come to Duncanville, Texas?" I said, "Really, it's about this girl right there." And he says, "Well, I get it. I have daughters." So after I turned down the job in Oregon, I agreed to come down and interview. Because quite frankly, I was kind of depressed. I came down, saw everything. It was beautiful, wonderful. The committee treated me great. And I went home and told them no. And that's when I got the other phone call saying, "Why won't you come be our pastor?" And I said, "It's about her." I said, "I need something. I need time. I need 6 to 10 days every other month or so to go see her and be with her during her senior year in high school." And the guy I'm talking to on the phone says, after a very long pause, "Are you kidding?" See, I thought I had asked for too much. Because, you know, if you listen to that, I need 6 to 10 days every other month. And you do the math, that's 60 days of vacation.
That's right.
I've had the same employer for 30 years, for crying out loud. After the long pause, he says, "Are you freaking kidding me?" He says, "We have been jumping through all these hoops for the last 4 months because you want time to go spend with your daughter. Why didn't you tell us that ahead of time?" I said, "Because you didn't ask." And I actually had told them why I was wanting to be in Oregon. When I told him that, he says, "Well, I can tell you that we'll approve that as a committee and not even have to go back to the committee." I said, "Okay, sign me up." And then I became the pastor here. And it's allowed me to make other and better choices with every part of my life, simply because I chose to do something different on March 12th of last year. The power of choice is something that every person in this room has. It depends on creating what you want to have in your life. I wanted to have a relationship with my daughter that my daughter was going to say when she's 35 and 40 and 45 years old, "I remember when you came to Oregon 7 times during my senior year." I don't know about you, but making choices like that are what's really important to me. It's what I talk about. It's what I preach about at the church. It's about what Lions Clubs do. We make choices to help people have better lives. And the single best way to do that is to make personal decisions that make our lives better. Because let me tell you, as I've made all these choices, people all around me are getting thinner. The church is growing. We're having a good time. And I get to belong to a Lions Club. I like it. So the power of choice, it's yours. And you get to decide. So figure out what it is you want and do it.